Well, take it away. We'll let Jennifer start unless you two have discussed how you want to present.
I'll start. I'll start. Okay. So, since Wendy is always talking about her t-shirts, I'm wearing my White Mesa Mills says no to uranium t-shirt. So that, and I'm going to start with the poem that I wrote for that Four Corners anthology about uranium, and it didn't get published, but I thought I'd share it with you. It's called Uranium Keeps Me Up at Night. Nervous at the San Miguel County Commissioners meeting, commenting on proposed uranium exploratory drilling at Slick Rock, surrounded by leftover old radioactive tailings piles for miles. Anfield boss pounds on the table. It's our God-given right to mine uranium. Well, maybe so, but what about the people who live here? Don't you know the 1872 mining law gives us all the rights to mine and none to clean it up? Don't you know that Nixon made an energy sacrifice zone and environmental protections don't apply these days? Uranium ore ripped out of Mother Earth sets loose radioactive particles emanating to pollute the air, attaching to dust particles and landing in the Dolores River. Or maybe floating on the wind for miles, dropping back to land, taken up by forage and ingested by cattle. Or maybe sucked into a human lung where it attaches to alveoli until pop. Radio progeny decay and lung cancer devastates a non-smoker. 2.2 million to 7.7 million per excess death from radon exposure, concludes a NIH Navajo Nation study. From lung cancer, gastrointestinal cancer, skin cancers, high uranium concentrations pass from mother to baby. So let's make our voices heard. From the energy sacrifice zone to the Colorado legislature. Colorado Green Amendment must pass so we have constitutional rights to clean air, water, and healthy lands for future generations. And maybe we could all sleep better at night. And then I have a little bit more facts to go with it.
That was great, Jennifer. Thank you. That's beautiful.
Montezuma County is in the darkest red zone for radon. 500 non-smokers die each year in Colorado from radon-caused lung cancer. Just breathing the air is like smoking 6 to 8 cigarettes a day in Montezuma County. Uranium tailings storage at Slick Rock in San Miguel County, the EPA disposal cell is 1.1 million dry tons of contaminated materials, with a total activity of 149 curies of radium-226. The radioactive particles emanate from the tailings piles to pollute the air and carry for miles, mixing in the soil, being taken up by the plants, animals, and people. And that's with the best technology used to mitigate uranium tailings pollution. The air, land, and water, and that's air, land, and water pollution for 10,000 years. There are many more tailings piles emanating curies all over the western slope. When they count the death cost for each type of energy, the deaths per trillion kilowatt hours, they only consider nuclear accidents like Fukushima and 3 Mile Islands. They don't count the tailings storage, the milling pollution, and mining pollution. So I don't know how our legislator could pass a bill that says that nuclear energy is clean energy when it pollutes for 10,000 years. So nuclear regulators has said that no level of radiation is safe. But Trump is firing nuclear regulatory commissioners to relax the regulations so industry can decide how much radiation is safe for workers and communities. So if we had a Colorado right to a healthy environment, we could use it at the county commissioner level to deny permits for new uranium mining at the county level and to help write new mining regulations that account for the negative health effects of uranium mining, milling, and nuclear energy projects.
So I would like Jennifer to talk to you after the fact about recording your poem and sharing it on the website and on social media and other places. It was really beautiful.
I guess it was too graphic for the Four Corners anthology.
Really So one of the things that we talked about is with this micro training is sort of showing people how if we did this kind of presentation around real issues in Colorado, how it would work. And the idea is somebody, an expert, impacted community member organization would get on, share the issue and the facts and information about the issue. If there was a call to action, share a call to action. And then at some point, I would come on and ask a few questions and help people understand how the amendment might be helpful. So we're going to do that now. The fact of the matter is, Jennifer actually already accomplished that in a big way, in what she said about how the Colorado Right to a Healthy Environment. Forgive me, I say Green Amendment as like a my fallback, but right to a healthy environment, how that would work. But so Jennifer, when it comes to the county commissioners having to give a permit, what are they giving a permit for? What facets of the industry need a permit from the county?
Well, I went to the work I did with Sheep Mountain Alliance, and there was a Sierra Club person involved in San Miguel County. At Slick Rock, they wanted to do exploratory drilling. So we went there first and talked to the county commissioners, and I wore this shirt too. and just told them that we didn't have, we didn't think that was a good idea because of what happened in the past at Slick Rock, the past mining, the World War II era mining that, I told them about friends that I had whose family, friends that grew up there and played on tailings piles when they were kids. And the dad died in a mining accident when the mine collapsed. And the kids all ended up with cancer. And so, I told the county commissioners about that. And I told them, we really don't need to start up new uranium mining again. And I had some facts, but we still had nothing to stand on. And if there was a Green Amendment or a Colorado Right to a Healthy Environment, we could point to that and say, it's obvious that uranium pollutes the air, land, and water, and causes bad health effects. So there's no, so you need to deny the exploratory permit because there's no reason to mine uranium in our area or anywhere really.
So just so I understand, so the county has two bites at the apple. One is they have to give a permit for exploratory drilling. And then two is presumably if the company does their drilling and comes back and wants to have a sort of a permanent permit to drill, then the county has to approve that. Do I have that right?
And we were lucky because in the interim they couldn't deny the drilling because they had no reason to deny it. And I think they said it that they really just didn't think they could. And so they let the drilling go on. But in the interim, they did their regulations for mining and we had the input on that. So we made sure that one part of it says there are no negative health effects. So when they came back to ask for mining permits, they couldn't get it because there's obviously going to be health effects.
So it sounds like, let me ask you one more question, just really quick, because I know we're almost out of our time. Does the state have to give any permitting to any facet of the industry, from the drilling to the disposal? Is there any?
Oh yeah, the Colorado mining regulation. I'm not exactly, don't have the name off the top of my head, but they just rubber stamp everything on the western slopes.
But they do have to give a permit as well.
Yeah. Okay. Or they have to give some kind of permission. Yes,
yeah.
They have to go through them. I'm not exactly sure they call it a permit, but they do have to go to them.
Okay.
And they always say yes.
Yeah. And so what the Colorado Right to a Healthy Environment is going to do, it's going to give several bites at the apple. So first off, it's really important for people to understand that the Constitution, right, and the constitutional right applies to government and government action. So whenever we have an issue, we're going to be looking for those governmental decision-making points that we can impact. And a beautiful thing about the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights, Declaration of Rights section of the Constitution, as long as the language is crafted correctly, which the Colorado Right to a Healthy Environment is, it's the obligations to respect and protect the right. In this case, it's the environmental rights, doesn't just apply to state government, it applies to local government as well. So it's going to apply at the state level to the state regulatory agency, but it is also going to apply at the county level to the county regulatory agency. And the amendment is an additional layer, right? It's over and above. So it's an additional layer to whatever laws and regulations are currently in existence around the issue, in this case, around uranium mining. So while absent the Constitution, very often companies can come in and say, look, the regulations say I have to do XYZ in order to get my permit. And if I can do XYZ, you give me my permit and I go forth and do my thing. When you have the constitutional amendment, the right to a healthy environment in place, it's not going to be enough simply for the permittee and the government to say that they met the mandates of the regulations and the legislation. The constitutional rights and protections are in addition to. So in the first instance, yes, the county is going to be able to say, look, we looked at the laws, we looked at the regulations, we believe that they are met, therefore the company is entitled, and they will use that word, to their permit. But because the people have a right to a clean and healthy environment, that will give the people of Colorado the opportunity to come in with the facts, the information, and the science to say, while the company is meeting the standards in the regulations, they are not, and we can demonstrate it with our science and information, they are not protecting our right as articulated in the Constitution. And so it becomes another obligation and burden that the company and the government have to meet. It's really that the government has to meet in order for the project to withstand a legal challenge. So the Constitution can become, right, that opportunity for challenge that could yield success. And it can apply at the exploratory level and the final permitting level. And the same thing can happen at the state regulatory level. One thing I want you to know is in the state of Montana, there was in Montana, the government did give, the Department of Environmental Quality did give to a industrial gold mining operation a permit that it said complied with the law to do exploratory test well drilling for industrial gold mining operations out in a remote ecosystem that was going to have serious environmental implications. And based on Montana's Green Amendment, residents challenged that permit and they were able to demonstrate that the government didn't actually fully, fairly consider the environmental rights implications of the proposed drilling, that the impacts would be very high, and that as a result, the permit should be defeated as being unconstitutional, and the people won. So we have a real world example in an industrial situation where a permit for test well drilling, for exploratory drilling, was defeated based on a Green Amendment. And you'll note that I talked about two facets. There's the right to a clean and healthy environment, right? That sort of stands on its own. But in order to demonstrate, for the government to demonstrate that that right is protected, they also have to demonstrate they did a full and fair analysis about what would be the environmental rights implications of the project if it were allowed to go forward. And it has often been the case where that failure to do that review of impacts was the thing that defeated a permit or a government decision. So you actually get two bites at the apple, the procedural aspect and the substantive aspect, and sometimes they come into play together. So yes, when it comes to uranium mining, the Colorado Right to a Healthy Environment could be a powerful ally and tool.
Yeah, and what they do, what the uranium industry regularly does is, says they're so healthy and meet and such have great technology, and then like at the mine in northern Arizona, that's in the forest, they pierced the aquifer and polluted all the water, and they don't even know where all that aquifer water goes. And so they always come back after the fact and say, oops, oops, we messed up. Maybe we're really, they're really not that great with their technology.
And that does raise one final really important point and issue. And this has come out of court decision making in both Montana and Pennsylvania. The court cases are very, very clear that the constitutional green amendment language is not just reactive. You don't have to wait for the harm to have a constitutional victory. If you can demonstrate that harm will be the likely outcome, you can rely on the amendment to prevent the harm. So that's how we get a permit rejected, denied, rescinded, voided, because the people have been able to come in and demonstrate there will be harm. We've had laws defeated because there was the demonstration, if the law was implemented as written, it would result in a constitutional violation. So that's really important, is that green amendments are anticipatory and can prevent harm before it happens.
Mm-hmm.
That was a great example, and I think relevant. Elisa, did you get your question answered about the differences of permits?
Yeah, I think I was kind of going back and forth in my head of yes, the counties probably have different things. Does Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment ever have a say over as like an overarching government body versus permitting in the local counties is kind of how I wanted to reframe my question and why I deleted it. But then I had another thought just now. Um, Jennifer, I think it would be great to have the monetary cost of cleanup of these specific sites with your facts. For example, Christy and I live right next to Rocky Flats. I'm looking at it out my window right now. And the cleanup of that is in the billions. And I think as we talk to people about that, that is a huge, that's what taxpayers are paying. And that's a huge offset to us, not just in our health, but monetary as well. And that's another way we can start to impact the conversation.
Yeah, I totally agree. I can't remember the guy's name, but I talked to someone at that or the Colorado Health, and actually I wrote them letters and stuff. And I don't believe they do have any say in permitting, because really they didn't even want to talk about uranium. And the person that I talked with the most that was helpful was Phil Weiser's legal expertise area was uranium and water, and her name's Carrie Notaboom, and I think she probably was more helpful with maybe stopping some things, or in the governor or in the attorney general's office than than the guy who was at the Colorado Department of Health. And I think they should really concentrate on that a little more, because they need to be involved. I just don't think they're on it. Or I don't know. I seriously doubt they side with the uranium industry. But, it's just not high on their list of things to do, I guess.
I think that cost is critical as well, like that economic cost, because that's what so many of more Republican leaning conservative people, they're always looking at financials and how the costs of things, and because we want to appeal in a multi-partisan, bipartisan way, I think that could be a powerful argument. Don't you think, Maya?
Say it again.
Well,
The cost, just the cost of clean up, the cost, the financial cost of all of this, that we could show when there isn't these protections, the preventative permitting measures.
So I think that can be a very helpful persuasive argument in terms of the values of having the amendment. One thing we want to be a little bit careful about, like when we think about how we're going to use the cost argument, is one of the very powerful values of a constitutional green amendment, like we're talking about for Colorado, is that costs don't, for lack of a better word, costs don't trump the right. Right. And so you cannot have a situation, unless the court's misinterpreting and misapplying the law, We have case law in Pennsylvania where the courts are very clear that the government can't come in and say, look, we're going to make or save a gazillion dollars if we let this bad thing happen. And so that overshadows, right, the constitutional right of the people to pure water, clean air, and a healthy environment, and our natural resource protection obligations. And we've been able to come back successfully and say, no, that economic argument cannot be used, right, to tamp down the right, to overshadow and displace the right. The right has priority over those kinds of economic arguments. So we want to make sure when we're making an economic argument that we're not unwittingly sort of reversing that and saying, well, wait, the economics are so powerful. You have to recognize the right, because we may then sort of be handing the opposition the argument to say, well, they're relying on economics as the priority. We should be allowed to do so as well. So we're going to want to use those economic arguments as a value of having a Colorado Green Amendment, the Colorado Right to a Healthy Environment Amendment, not as a winning legal argument that should assure the upholding of the right in one context or another.
Well, and in
Got it.
Colorado too, it's every all the World War II uranium mining ended up in Superfund sites, and everybody knows how much a Superfund site costs. So we could just say that, like Uravan got wiped off the map, that the mine, the town, the people, they all had to go, and it was a Superfund site, and there's nothing there now except for however they cleaned it up. And
Well-
so I think that's just how dangerous uranium is.